Oh my goodness, there he is. Look at that massive buck. What is going on, everybody? How you doing? I am your humble guide, Stagtastic, coming back at you in Way of the Hunter. By now, I'm sure you are all aware that update 1.2 is live on all the platforms, and I have personally been enjoying the changes quite a bit. Let me tell you what, there is so much going on here. I love all of it, but perhaps two of the biggest features that put the biggest smile on my face, I was just playing, wasn't really expecting it, was the sound of the water when you walk through it. It's just so satisfying, you know, when you're walking through the shallow waters, the splishes and splashes, as well as when you go into some deeper water. And not only that, but the sound of the animals as they call out in the distance. There's just this very satisfying echo to their calls that makes them even more majestic when you hear it. What features have you enjoyed experiencing since the release of the update? Let me know in the comments. Let's talk about that a little bit. Today, believe it or not, we're not going to talk about the update any further than that, because today I promised one of you amazing supporters in the comments that I would create a video explaining herd management. And I think people really shy away from herd management because it seems like too much work than what people really want to do. It seems like a lot of people just want to come in and hunt and shoot things and have a good time. And that is totally okay. But the reality is that herd management is a very necessary feature if you want consistently large trophies on your maps. All too often, like I said, people load into the game and just roam around picking off animals at random, or they hope that they're just going to get lucky and come across a large 5-star trophy. Now, don't get me wrong, this can happen from time to time, and it's happened to me when I least expect it. But that is ultimately the exception to the rule, where you just randomly come across a 5-star trophy. It's not the rule itself. The most successful hunters know how to actively control their herds and make it a priority when it comes to Way of the Hunter. Think of herd management as if you were a farmer planting crops. You need to plant the seeds in the best soil where they will get the most sunlight and water. You need to make sure that all the weeds and insects are kept out so that they don't kill off your crops and so on. And the same is true when it comes to Way of the Hunter. You are essentially managing your animal herds just like you would if you were managing crops. Now, one of the things that I want to mention before we dive into this is that different animals have different life cycles and can actually live a lot longer than other species. So really keep that in mind when it comes to managing your herd. Patience will be an important factor when going for the biggest and the best trophies. Herd management can be broken down into three main subjects: the primary and secondary habitats, male to female ratios, and gene pool culling. First, you have to prioritize an animal's primary habitat location. It is possible to find large game outside of their primary habitat location, but again, these are going to be the exception to the rule. You will always find the largest and best trophies in that particular animal's primary habitat location. I would personally strongly recommend figuring out which trophy you're going to collect and work from there. Don't leave it to luck, don't leave it to chance. If you want to go out and put a 5-star pheasant on your wall, then focus on pheasants for a while. If you want a 5-star chamois on your wall, then you need to focus on hunting chamois for a while. You cannot just leave it up to chance. Plan your hunts. In other words, focus on one species of animal until you have that animal on your wall hanging as a 5-star trophy. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to log in every day and hunt chamois every single day for 2 weeks straight. In fact, I would actually advise against that because you do need time to grow your herds. Ideally, you should be able to get to a point where you are managing 2 or 3 different species on a map at a time that you can just kind of rotate through until you become a true expert, and then you can actually increase the number of species that you're hunting at a time at a later time if you actually wanted to do that. Now, in addition to rotating through a few different species, make sure that you also have several different herds that you can rotate throughout within a species to create the best chances of spawning a large trophy, okay? Don't harass the same 3 or 4 herds of deer over and over and over again. Again, you need to give them time to grow and produce more offspring. You need to give them time to rest and let that area cool off, because otherwise you're going to spook them, you're going to drive them away, and they're not going to come back to that particular spot. And that ultimately brings us to our next point, and that is male to female ratios. So you don't want to harass the same 3 or 4 herds, because eventually you're going to run out of animals to cull. You have to wait and give those animals time to produce, or as the game would put it, wait for a new life cycle to begin for that herd. I would personally recommend finding at least 6 different herds that you can rotate through to make sure you're not pressuring any one herd too heavily. And if you can't find 6 herds, that's totally fine. If you don't want to do that, that is okay. Just know that you're going to have to be a little bit more patient. You're going to have to work slower than normal. Now, when it comes to male and female ratios, as a general rule, you really should want to see a 1-to-1 ratio as far as males to females go. We can go ahead and use deer as an example. If you find a herd of deer that has, let's just say, again, as an example, 4 bucks and 7 does, I would personally go ahead and shoot 2 does, 2 of the older does, because essentially they're just extra deer at that point. When the next life cycle comes around, those 2 doe are not going to produce any offspring. Now remember, this is a game. In real life, it would probably be okay to have extra does running around, but not necessarily in Way of the Hunter. The same can be said if there are too many bucks. Now, to be fair, if you have 1 extra male or 1 extra female in a herd, it's probably not that big of a deal. You're going to have to make the call as the hunter, as the quote-unquote farmer of your herds. One of the biggest deciding factors as to which animal you're going to take has to do with our next point, and that is the gene pool. When you shoot an animal with low fitness scores or low genes, this act is called culling the herd. Culling is an act of taking out those smaller animals and leaving the bigger animals to continue to pass on those stronger genes. It's survival of the fittest type stuff. Oftentimes, people tend to get stuck on which bucks to take if there are multiple low fitness score animals in the herd. Do you take the 1-star mature? Do you take the 1-star adult? Or in some cases, should you take a 1-star young buck? Well, I would almost always advise against taking any 1-star young animal, only because they might actually grow up to be bigger than you might think. So it's always good just to kind of let them grow, see what they turn out to be. But when it comes to the 1-star matures and adults, I would still use my callers just to verify what it is. And if you have a 1-star mature and a 1-star adult coming your way, then it really doesn't matter which one you shoot. They both have low fitness scores. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend killing both of them unless you know for a fact that there are bigger, better animals in that herd that did not respond to the low fitness score callers. Your callers are going to be your best friend. As you begin your herd management journey, get used to using your callers' low fitness calls as often as possible. That's all I used for a very long time. That is the only way to do it. Use those callers as often as you can. There's nothing wrong with it. That's the only way you're going to know. Otherwise, it is very difficult to know which animals to take out without using those callers. Of course, you can use your binoculars to see if an animal is a 1-star mature, etc. But I would still recommend using the callers just to verify that you are in fact calling the animals with the lowest fitness scores. Over time, that is going to help you build healthy, strong genetics and begin to slowly spawn bigger and bigger animals in that herd. Let me tell you guys, it is a really good feeling when you're out there using your low fitness calls and none of the animals are responding to it. That is a sign of successful herd management. As a general rule, you really want to keep the animals with the highest genetics. So if you find a herd of deer with a 3-star mature buck and a 4-star mature buck in the herd, which one do you take? Well, first of all, I would go ahead and verify if I needed to take either one of them based on the herd ratios. Maybe I don't need to take either of them. But if the ratios are off, then I would see if there are any other bucks that I could shoot before I shoot the 3 or 4-star matures, right? Or in some cases, maybe I can just go ahead and cull 1 or 2 of the does instead of shooting the bucks. So think along those terms as far as which animals to take and when to take them. And ultimately, guys, that's all there is to herd management. Make sure you're focusing on your primary habitats with multiple herd rotations, and really leave those secondary habitat locations for those times when you do just want to come in and mess around without taking things too seriously. Go hunt those secondary areas when you've had a long day and you just want to have some fun and try out some new things. Second, check the male to female ratios and level them out as needed. Thirdly, cull the animals with the lowest genetics consistently. If you actively pursue these 3 tips, you are going to begin to see large trophies on your maps a lot sooner than you might think. Y'all, did you find this video helpful? I certainly hope so. If you have not already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and be sure to like the video. I love making these videos for you and I love connecting with you guys in the comments. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it means a whole lot to me. Y'all, with that said, I am, as always, your humble guide, Stagtastic. We hope to see you back here next time. Happy hunting and take care.